The Egyptian president and Jordan's crown prince discuss Gaza's reconstruction without displacement. The Egyptian Prime Minister and UN Secretary General discuss Egypt's efforts on the Gaza ceasefire. And Egypt's Minister of Foreign Affairs explains the country's stance on the Palestine cause to a US congressional delegation. Hello there, good evening. You're watching the latest updates from Egypt on Qnews. Let's get the latest developments. Egypt and Jordan have condemned escalations in the West Bank and reaffirmed support for a two-state solution. That came as Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with Jordan's Crown Prince Hussein, who conveyed King Abdullah II's greetings. Discussions focused on strengthening bilateral ties and regional stability, particularly in Palestine. President el-Sisi and Prince Hussein emphasized Egypt's role in securing the Gaza ceasefire, humanitarian aid, and reconstruction without displacement. The meeting also addressed Syria's unity and stability. Also, the Egyptian President el-Sisi has met with the head of the World Jewish Congress, Ronald Lauder, alongside General Intelligence Chief Hassan Rashad. Discussions focused on restoring Middle East stability, including Egypt's efforts to uphold the Gaza ceasefire, facilitate humanitarian aid, and ensure detainee exchanges. Lauder praised Egypt's role, while el-Sisi emphasized the urgency of a two-state solution and Gaza's reconstruction without displacement. Lauder reaffirmed his commitment to continued dialogue with Egypt. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, along with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and the Minister of Higher Education, have discussed the creation of private universities, digital transformation, and service automation. The presidential spokesperson, Ambassador Mohammed el-Shenawi, said that President el-Sisi was briefed on the efforts of university hospitals to receive injured individuals from Gaza. He directed the continued provision of medical and therapeutic services at these hospitals and the supply of medications for the people of Gaza. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Secretary General of the United Nations Antonio Guterres have discussed Egypt's efforts regarding the ceasefire in Gaza. On the sidelines of the 38th African Union Summit in Addis Ababa, Prime Minister Madbouli also highlighted ongoing Egyptian efforts in coordination with regional and international partners to enhance ceasefire initiatives and reconstruction efforts, as well as plans for convening an emergency Arab summit soon. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has confirmed that Egypt has developed a comprehensive vision for the reconstruction of Gaza, with several officials and experts currently working to finalize this vision. During his meeting with the members of the Advisory Committee for Urban Development and Property Export, the Prime Minister also highlighted the presence of unique investment opportunities along the Red Sea coast, with various plot sizes, as well as investment opportunities in downtown Cairo in light of the ongoing development projects. Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdul Ati has provided a detailed explanation to a US congressional delegation about Egypt's stance on the Palestinian cause. Abdel Ati reviewed Egypt's ongoing efforts to develop a comprehensive plan for early recovery and reconstruction in Gaza as part of a multi-phase program that ensures Palestinians remain on their land. He noted that the plan is being coordinated with the Palestinian Authority, Arab and Islamic countries, and supported by the international community. "245 humanitarian aid trucks, including 19 carrying fuel, have entered the Al Auja and Karim Abel Salim en route to Gaza. According to our sister news channel, Al Qahira News, the aid convoys facilitated by Egypt includes food, tents and other essential supplies to support displaced residents. Under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Egypt has launched one of the largest aid convoys with more than 460 trucks carrying 7,200 tons of food, all necessary needs and medical supplies to reach the Gaza Strip ahead of Ramadan. Several ministers have participated in the launch of Tahrir Mas Fund's largest convoy of humanitarian aid trucks to support Palestinians in Gaza. The ministers expressed their happiness in joining the effort, as well as the launch of the Abwab al-Khair initiative to support the most needy families during Ramadan. Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulides has confirmed that Egypt is a cornerstone for stability in the Middle East and playing a pivotal role in resolving conflicts and regional diplomacy as a stabilizing force during times of crisis. On the sidelines of his visit to Cairo, he emphasized that President el-Sisi's leadership in mediating the ceasefire, especially in Gaza, has been widely acknowledged. He also reiterated his country's support for Egypt's efforts and its commitment to deepening coordination with Egypt to prevent further escalation and promote a sustainable political solution. Arab League Secretary-General Ahmed Abul-Gheit has condemned Israel's stalling tactics in completing its withdrawal from southern Lebanon, as mandated by the extended ceasefire agreement until February 18th. Abul-Gheit stressed that Israel must adhere to the timeline, warning against deliberate crisis escalation. Abul-Gheit urged guarantor parties to pressure Israel to comply, fully supporting Lebanon's firm stance against any further delays or partial withdrawals. Italian Minister of Agriculture Francesco Lollobrigida has confirmed that Egypt and Italy share strong historical ties that span across the ages. During the celebration of the Italian ship Amerigo Vespucci, known worldwide as the most beautiful ship in the world, Italian minister added that Egypt possesses a great civilization that has contributed a lot to the world, with unique landmarks such as the pyramids and the Grand Egyptian Museum. Lieutenant General Ahmed Khalifa, Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, has inspected the security measures on the Western Strategic Direction. This inspection is part of the General Command of the Armed Forces' commitment to closely monitoring the security situation at the border crossings and checkpoints. The Medea Initiative has announced that it provided social protection services to 17 million citizens within the first 100 days of its launch. During this period, the initiative offered 224 million healthcare services, including 148,000 surgeries to meet patients' needs. It also allocated 1 billion Egyptian pounds to support hospital infrastructure and improve healthcare facilities across Egypt. These achievements in the first 100 days represent a significant step towards sustainable human development in line with Egypt's Vision 2030. Minister of Local Development Manal Awad has witnessed the signing of 4 cooperation protocols with Sona Al Khair Foundation and several community institutions aimed at strengthening developmental work. Minister Awad said that effective partnerships between the government, civil society and the private sector represent the cornerstone in building a brighter future, as real development cannot be achieved without the integration of efforts and the unification of visions. Minister of Electricity Mahmoud Asmat and Mohammed Abunyan, chairman of Saudi's ACWA Power, have discussed ways to enhance cooperation in improving energy efficiency and strengthening the unified electricity grid. They reviewed future projects within the country's strategy to expand renewable energy, particularly at 1,100 megawatts wind power project, and the activation of memorandums of understanding for other wind projects totaling 10,000 megawatts signed in previous years. The Minister of Environment, Yasmin Fouad, has met with a delegation from BP to explore ways of collaborating on renewable natural gas projects in Egypt generated from landfill gas emissions. The minister emphasized that Egypt has made significant strides in biofuel production and creating an environment conducive to converting waste into energy. She also highlighted efforts to collect gas from landfills, aiming to reduce the country's energy supply burden. Meanwhile, BP has announced the start of production from Phase 2 of the Ravine Field development, connecting additional subsea wells to the existing onshore infrastructure as part of the West Nile Delta project. BP's regional president for the Middle East and North Africa, Neda Zaki, has said he expects the new wells in the Ravine development project to produce approximately 220 billion cubic feet of gas and 7 million barrels of condensates. Minister of Planning, Rania Al-Mashat, has said the developing countries are facing a 50% surge in debt service costs between 2022 and 2025, a matter that constitutes a major challenge to sustainable investments. During her participation in the preparatory meeting of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, Al-Mashat pointed out to the ministry's efforts to promote structural reforms through the development policy financing, which is being implemented in cooperation with the World Bank, the African Development Bank and the European Union. Football now, and Pep Guardiola, manager of Manchester City, has praised the hat-trick scored by Egyptian international Omar Marmoush in the match against Newcastle United. Marmoush became the fastest Arab player to score a hat-trick in the English Premier League, achieving the feat in just 12 minutes. His goals came in the 19th, 24th and 33rd minutes of the first half during the match between Man City and Newcastle United in the Premier League. And now we go live to a speech being delivered by Hezbollah's Secretary General, Naim Qassem.
I'll start with the leaders, the martyrs. We chose this commemoration on February 16, the anniversary for the martyrdom of the Sheikh, the martyr Raghib Harb, and the martyr Sayyid Abbas al-Musawi, and before them, on the 12th of February, was the martyrdom of Haj Imad Mughniyi. May God have mercy on his soul. On the anniversary of the leaders, we recall the holy verse. There are believers, men, believers who lived up to their pledge to God. Some of them have fallen, some await. Where were they martyred? Why were they martyred? Where were they? in the jihad and confrontation and sacrifice. Everybody knows that in 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon, and the aim was to eradicate the Palestinian resistance from Lebanon, and the Palestinian armed resistance fighters, along with their leadership, went to Tunisia, and Lebanon became without resistance, based on the rule that the resistance would completely come to an end in Lebanon and hence the region and Palestine. During this time exactly, Hezbollah emerged, and in a period of around 2 years, on the 16th of February in 1984, the spies came to the village of Jibshit and they killed the martyr Sheikh Raghib Harb. What was this martyr doing? The martyr Sheikh Raghib was a popular figure. He used to pray the Friday prayers in the mosque. People would gather around him from all the surrounding villages. He would stand courageously during the Israeli occupation of South Lebanon. So Jibshit was in the heart of the Israeli occupation and all of the surroundings in the south. He did not fear them. He spoke out against them, and he mobilized the people to confront the Israeli enemy. And during this time, the resistance was still at its beginning, the Islamic resistance, in collaboration with the national resistance. And this resistance, which was still at its beginning, it caused concern for the enemy, and it considered that what Shaheed or martyr Sheikh Raghib Harb did was something harmful to them because it exposed them, the Israelis. Sheikh Raghib, as a popular figure, as a friendly person, as an ethical person, someone who is attached to his land, he stood against the Israeli enemy and terrorized this enemy. They killed him, believing that they would get rid of him. The martyr Sheikh Raghib was born in 1952 and he was martyred in 1984, so he was 32 years old when he was martyred. He is known for the famous saying, shaking hands is recognition and stance is arms. He refused to shake hands with the Israelis when the Israelis came to him, and he is the one who said, "You will not extinguish our torch, and you will not overthrow our banner." This is one of the themes of jihad. The second martyr is or was His Eminence Sayyid Abbas al-Musawi, may God have mercy on his soul, the Secretary General of Hezbollah. He took up this position in 1991, and after a few months, on the 16th of February in 1992,
and that's the Secretary General, Naim Qassem, of Hezbollah, delivering a speech there with some of the history of Hezbollah, so what he was talking about in that speech. Now, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin on Egypt, but here's a recap of the headlines. The Egyptian president and Jordan's crown prince discuss Gaza's reconstruction without displacement. Egyptian Prime Minister and UN Secretary General discuss Egypt's efforts on the Gaza ceasefire. And Egypt's Minister of Foreign Affairs explains the country's stance on the Palestinian cause to a US congressional delegation. Well, that's all for now for our Egypt Bulletin, but stay with Q News for some special coverage with me coming up shortly. Thanks for watching.